Doctor? Doctor, come quickly!
The calendar!
Hello and welcome to day 23 of the Genesis of Adversary Advent Calendar for 2022.
Oh,
Today, we are going to follow up a video that we did in the 2020 Advent Calendar, which was me and my guest Ruben, who's my friend from KFC. 2 years ago. Yes, but we're both still at KFC, by the way. 2 years ago, we reviewed the original Blade Runner by Ridley Scott, and we loved it. We decided 2 years later we wanted to do Blade Runner 2049 by Denis Villeneuve, which came out in, I think it was 2017. So we wanted to, do the quote-unquote sequel, bring it back and all that. So that's what we're going to do in this video. We're going to review Blade Runner 2049, which I watched for the first time last night.
Same. Not last night, though.
Yeah. And there was someone on this channel who used to be on it a lot that isn't on it anymore. His name's Adam. He always said to me that he thought that this film was better than the original, so I was always interested to see it and see what he meant by that.
Well, he needs a lobotomy. So.
So yeah, anyway. I guess I'll start with you, Ruben, given that you're my guest. What is your initial overall thoughts on Blade Runner 2049?
Long. Too long, but soundtrack was good, world was good, just like the last one. They could expand on that. I can find nothing wrong with the world. But it started getting a little too Hollywood, and that's my main opinion for me.
So you don't think it's as art house as the original?
No, yeah, it can expand on the worldsy part, on the artsy sides, but then it started to take away from that when they added a lady Terminator in. So I don't really...
Well, that's a very blunt way of putting it. Anyway. So, this is such a weird film. I'm in such, two minds about it, because there's things about this film that I loved, but there's also things about this film that maybe, scratch my head so much. And I think the biggest thing to note is that whilst you can tell it is set within the same, canon, it is so different from the original. It is so starkly, a different film, if you get what I mean. In so many ways. I think the thing that I noticed after a while, and I think when I got about halfway through the film, I was like, okay, this is definitely, a thing that Denis Villeneuve is doing here, and it happened throughout the entire film, is that the way this film is structured and paced is it's just, basically, it's these, set pieces that last, 15 minutes, all in one location. And then they have one of those, and then they have another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one until the end of the film. It's so
thank God it's over.
Every single scene, not every scene, but most scenes in the film, major scenes, are just as long as each other for the most part, apart from maybe the climactic battle. But the vast majority of the visual set pieces is right, here's a location, here's the art design, here's what it looks like. Let's stay here for 10 to 15 minutes and have a conversation or a fight. There's so many set pieces in this film that are like that, just one after the other, after the other, after the other. I don't hate that. I just thought it was really weird. It made for a very bizarre viewing experience, because it didn't feel like I was watching a winding adventure or a sort of... Because, the thing that I loved about the original Blade Runner is the way that it all unfolded. A sort of, almost like you're unwrapping a gift. And it sort of had this, dot to dot to dot cause and effect, whereas this film was so different. So unbelievably different to the original Blade Runner in terms of its structure, in terms of the way it tells the story, in terms of... it still has the dystopian future and world and all that, and it has the more modernized ideas and concepts, but just the whole way it's structured is just you get what I mean. It's just these
Mm.
blocks of stuff that happen one after the other after the other. And it felt like an exhibition of chapters from a book rather than an actual film.
Yeah, you can compare it to that. Yeah, I think too.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me a little bit, not exactly like the same, because obviously the tone is very different. But it kind of reminded me of, like, you know, when you watch the extended Lord of the Rings films, and it's just these, like, set pieces that rise and fall. Kind of reminded me a bit of that, but obviously with a very different tone.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot you could take out, to be honest.
Yeah. And, like, yeah, it's such a weird film. Like, the first Blade Runner I thought was, like, a conceptual masterpiece, whereas I think this felt like, I don't like using this term, but it almost felt like a self-indulgent wank fest, if you get what I mean, for some of it.
Yeah.
Or it was like you're going on like a tour around, and then like the plot takes place within that tour, and it felt like Dennis, to me, it felt like Denis Villeneuve was too focused on trying to make impressive looking settings. You know, that's the thing I got from it. It felt like it was more interested in impressing with great, like, visual ideas and showing them off, as opposed to, you know, benefiting whatever the film was. And, like, I feel like, again, there's so much you gotta cut out from this film.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They wish they copied at least the 2-hour time span of the original.
I mean, the thing is, you could make a great 3-hour Blade Runner film. It's possible. It's just the way it's done was so strange. Like, how you do have this character, like, really intense character journey going throughout the whole thing, but then it's also interrupted by all these, like, set pieces that just sort of happen one after the other in a sequence, and is not like, this film does not flow at all. It's so weirdly paced. It's almost clinical in a way.
Yeah.
It's very weird, very strange.
It is very, very annoying and strange.
Yeah. There was also one specific character that I just found grating, but that's more of a personal, just like, there's just the actor. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. I have some character points as well.
Yeah, I guess we should start. We should dive right into the characters. So we'll start with Kay, also known as Joe, who Ryan Gosling played. He's the main character of the film. If I had to praise something about Kay a lot, is I think that what this film did really well was establish that this brand of replicants is very different to the previous, and they come across a lot more digitized in their personalities than the ones did from the original. And I think Ryan Gosling played that really well. The way he sort of, like, it was so clearly he was almost human, but there was so many little, like, anti-expressions he did with his face, where he would just almost, where you expect there to be humanity, he just doesn't express. And it wasn't like, it was such a great middle ground between being robotic and being human, and it allowed for a lot of really subtle emotional scenes. And I do one thing I do like is I do like the whole thing of, he thinks that he has, like, it kind of sets you up with the false parenthood arc that is in so many, like, typical, you know, cliched films. And then it's revealed that actually it's all these replicants that have these memories put into them, that they have the parenthood arc, but they don't. That's
another cliche.
Yeah, and it was like the thing of I guess if you're a casual moviegoer, you'd be like, oh yes, of course he's going to be the son of Rick Deckard, but then they basically subvert that and say, no, he isn't. He just thinks he is because he's a replicant that has that memory implanted into him, and then it's actually that girl he meets in the little dome that's his daughter. So yeah, that was an interesting arc for him specifically. But the thing
and also just the fact that, like, the only clue you get out of the the entire interaction is that she cries when looking at that memory.
Hmm.
It's like, how the sure, okay, it's so like, it's only one thing to let you know that that's his daughter. Why is that the one? She cries once at oh, that's a real memory. Wah wah wah. And
Hmm.
he just goes, oh, I know it is now. Oh, shut the fuck up.
Do you think maybe they wanted to prioritize shock value and they didn't want to do too much foreshadowing?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what makes it feel so modern Hollywood, doesn't it? Is that it goes for the subversion tactics as opposed to the sort of natural unfolding.
Build up. Yeah.
Like, that's what I love about the original Blade Runner, is how everything is foreshadowed in great detail. You just have to like really like sink your teeth and look into it. And there's also a lot of like interpretation as well with the original Blade Runner. It's like there's things that you know and things that you don't.
And they also just ruined the end of Blade Runner with this movie, basically, as well.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
Because this is the only option now, because this is what happened.
Yeah.
Which is...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite thing about Kay, the main character, is I think Ryan Gosling's performance is actually really, really good. But I just think his whole arc is so weirdly structured, because it's these little points throughout the film, but then there's so many interruptions, and there is like not really it doesn't feel like I'm watching his arc go on a journey. It feels like we are visiting it at certain points in the film, but it's being interrupted by plot, and it's being interrupted by world, and interrupted by character, and it doesn't really interlink properly. It doesn't connect in a succinct way. Feels a bit jumbled. That's my overall sort of feeling on him. Yeah, you give your thoughts on that character.
Kay? I like Kay. He was definitely the best character out of all of them. He did have that look of, but he looked like an altered human. Like he clearly is an upgrade from the ones that Deckhead had to hunt. I liked how he questioned his emotions a lot, and how he visually expressed his facial acting was very nice, and how he expressed his misunderstanding. Oh, and his relationship with his fucking Cortana hologram. That was good too.
Yes, of course, the hologram girlfriend.
Yeah. So like that allowed him to could have like an interior monologue, I guess, about stuff. So yeah, I think he was definitely my favorite character.
I think probably my favorite badass thing he did in this film was when he was being tempted by that street rat. You know the one, and he's just, and she's basically trying to play every trick in the book to, be like, hey honey, let's get naked, and he's just like, no.
Yeah,
that's not
Sigma Bateman.
That's not going to happen.
Yep.
But then there's I think that one of the most interesting, it's weird because this scene like interrupts the whole plot of the film, like dead stopped. But in terms of an isolated scene, it was really interesting how his hologram, partner thing, she like organized having that girl go inside her like digitized visuals and basically simulate the idea of him having sex with his hologram. And that was really, really unique, I have to say.
Yeah, it was. That, and everything involving that fucking, those brothel chicks in that group just kind of like seemed so rushed all the time.
Well, it was weird because it was like an interesting little side story, but it had nothing to do with the film.
Yeah, the only point of that was so she could track him, put a tracker in him. That's it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because she was part of the thing near the end, right?
Yeah. So she had in the film 3 times, but technically those 3 times are actually really important. But they're the smallest. You can just forget about it half the time completely.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite bits of acting from Gosling in this film is when he goes to that labor camp and he goes under the grate and sees the horse. And you just hear that like pulsating music, and you can see for the first time in the film, he shows like a lot of real emotion, and it's like he's almost like he's forcing it out of his head. Like it basically all of the emotion is internal monologue, but his face is still like fucking like stiff because he's a replicant, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
But it looked the word to use is constipated. If you get what I mean.
I get what you mean, but that's also not the word I'd use.
What would be the word you would use?
I don't know. Not that though, Jesus.
Caged, I guess.
Yeah, I would use probably more flustered with how to express everything that he's feeling, really. Not knowing if this is true or an implant to find out that it's real is quite something. Something that you couldn't explain yourself, really, because we're all humans, and the point of replicants is you don't know if your memories are real or not.
Yeah. Probably one of the
real.
Probably one of the most interesting scenes with Kay was when he had that whole thing at the start of the film with Sapper Morton, who's played by Dave Bautista, and that kind of foreshadowed near the end of the film.
Yep.
It's definitely.
You haven't seen a miracle.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the most noteworthy scenes thematically, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I think it's actually quite a good scene. It's more because it's actually relevant to the main character like arc of the film. Like it's really, really good for that. It's just the film is so fucking like bloated that by the time you get to like it referencing that scene again, it's like holy shit, that feels like it was like days ago.
Yeah, oh my god, kept going on so long. I kept like pausing the film, like, okay, how much longer? And you look at it, you've only an hour in, you've still got an hour and a half to go. You're like,
yeah.
What the hell is this?
Like there's 3-hour films that I really like. There's 3-hour TV serials I really like, but this felt bloated, like really excessive.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like, yeah, they also tried to shove the technology down your throat as well. No.
Oh yeah, they really did do that. Like it was so, they were like, it felt like they just had this big brainstorm of all these ideas of set pieces and of digital ideas that hadn't been done in the first film.
Yeah, like a to-do list, bucket list of things they wanted to show off.
What do we think of what people kind of perceive as like the defining scene for Kay is when he's standing on that bridge with like the purple light on him. He's holding that gun in his hand, and there's that like digital naked lady talking to him.
You're alone. I can help with that, something like that, right? And he takes off his thing, and he realizes, and that's post just being told that his dreams aren't real.
Yeah.
Right. And that he's now he has to decide to be the cliche fight for hope and die for hope kind of fucking thing.
Drowning a woman.
Luke Skywalker, yeah, big fucking Terminator, fucking crushing a woman's throat and then drowning her. But
what did you think of that whole thing near the end of the film where they did the, you know,
my action brain found it cool, especially like when he popped out of the water and started choking my most disliked character in the fuck, making him struggle.
Well, I was mainly thinking about the line where he says something like, "You did drown in there."
Oh yeah,
like that.
So you can live happily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was just it was quite a quick change of heart, really. I think that final thing, it just got rushed. I think that from when he found out he's not the thing to suddenly, and then the purple scene, and then oh yep, now I'm just gonna fight and like kill people and just so I can save him, so he can just see his daughter. Okay. Why are you invested in it this so much now? It's kind of just, yeah.
Well, that kind of leads me to the thing that I actually disliked the most about the film, and it's unfortunate that I say this, but like, I was really let down by Rick Deckard in this film.
Yeah, me too. I thought he was just a cameo, but he wasn't. He was the main plot point.
He feels. I don't think it's just writing. It might be a Harrison Ford thing too. But he feels so disconnected from the original, like just unbelievably different. It barely feels like the same character from the original Blade Runner.
Because what is this, 30 years after?
Yeah.
30.
But it's not just that though, it's just like, I don't remember the original Rick Deckard being this, like, you know, jokingly. Like, the comedy was very Hollywood with Rick Deckard in this
Yeah,
film.
he wasn't. Yeah,
He's
'cause
like,
even in
I like this song. I'm like, what? Rick
maybe
Deckard
yeah,
from
so you
Blade
could
Runner.
some of it, some of it you could pass away, but like, because I don't know when all that World War fucking Civil War shit happened, but like, we can assume he's been living alone for like a long time, just to hide his daughter. So yeah, he might be
Yeah.
a bit like fucking senile, kind of like not how to socialize. But yeah, I did not like
The comedy,
Oh,
the tone of a
yeah.
lot of the comedy felt out of place, I think, in this film with Rick
Honestly, I
Deckard.
laughed at like none of it. I don't even know. Yeah.
It was really weird. Like, I was like so just taken back. I was like, what? That's just so like that doesn't feel like it belongs in this film at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's following like him trying to kill Kay like for like 5 minutes, and then Kay finding the where he lives for about 15 minutes, going 9, 8, zoom out, zoom in, the bees, all the fucking statues, the naked ladies, all that fucking shit, all this
yeah.
build up, and then he just gets there, and then looks around, and then shoot out, and beat the shit out of each other, and oh, we're friends, okay. What, dude? So fucking. All because he thought it was his dad. But psych, dude. You're just a fucking replicant. Shame, pussy.
Oh yeah, so that's the thing that really annoys us about this film is that it basically just confirms that Rick Deckard's a replicant. Like, there's no ambiguity,
well,
right?
yeah, it doesn't basically confirm it, but it's kind of like now we can assume. But the main thing that it bugs me is like when him and Rachel escaped from there, anything could have happened. And then it leaves such a big open world, but it's like, no, they escaped. No, they fucking birds and the bees, and then they had a kid. He fucked off to the fucking black dad situation. Decided he went out, got some milk. Never came back. That's it. Rachel died in childbirth. Okay, cool. That's it. Child gets hidden. It's like, I just felt like for how creative the first one was, it just
Well, this just felt like they just wanted to subvert the false parenthood trope. You know?
Yeah.
Because it's a cliche in cinema and they wanted to make the opposite of that happen.
Yeah. Got more disappointing the longer the film went on, I think, really.
I think there was one line from Rick Deckard that was quite good though, from memory. It was the one where he's in that room with Jared Leto's character and he sees a hologram of Rachel when they first met, and
her eyes were green.
And he's like, her eyes are green. That was actually quite a good line. I did like that.
Yeah, that's like a old Dick. That's like that'd be more of a Deckard line.
Yeah, that felt like OG Deckard. I mean, the thing is about this film is that there's you remember the antagonist from the original Blade Runner, the Dutch guy. I can't remember what his name is, but you remember him, right?
Yeah, the replicant dude. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was no one in this film that was on his level. No one.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
No way. There was like they tried making an evil version of the guy who made all the replicants originally, which is Jared Leto, because he basically wanted to take over the universe technically. So we need to find this child because it can show us how replicants can produce life, so we can have more slaves. Okay, this is the bad guy. We know this now. Whereas like the big megacorp guy wasn't necessarily bad; he was just morally bound. It was like it wasn't so fucking slave running like fucking this guy's evil clearly. That everyone just still has a they have their moral standing from the beginning. There's no finding it along the way. Really. Like Deckard dared to do. Had to question his morality throughout the whole fucking thing. This one is just like they bypass that with Kay being like just a better replicant, I guess, which is fine. But I just don't like how the super billionaire just is automatically evil. straight away, for no particular reason.
I guess they tried to make it relevant to modern society, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Like some of those scenes that he was in is kind of like just weird. Why do they have to make him like a weird perv as well? Kind of like he had always had those cameras, and then when that new lady replicant was like born and slid out through the fucking top, she's trying to like learn to walk like a fucking foal, covered in fucking its mother's fluid, and he's just like looking at her and then like feeling her over, and then just stabs her. It's like, why? Why do we need all this? We already get. This is like, okay, yes, he's evil. That's all that scene was for. So it was almost, I thought, was so unnecessary.
Neander Wallace,
dead.
that was his name. I was trying to find it. Jared Leto's character was Neander Wallace.
Yeah, the Wallace. Yep, the Wallace Corporation.
Yeah, I mean, I've always found his sort of like the way he approaches villainous characters to be pretty try-hard. I would say he was more restrained in this than he is in some other stuff, but
Yeah, he's not as fucking Joker. That's for
no,
sure.
no, of course not. I mean, this whole film was very restrained in a lot of ways, apart from Deckard, who's just feels like a funny Hollywood dude. But like, but Neander Wallace, Jared Leto's character, like he was creepy, yes, but like there was that whole set piece of that they lifted that sort of cocoon and the woman like flops on the floor and then goes to stand up. Like that's like it's like a really creepy set piece that establishes the kind of person he is, especially when he doesn't like have any empathy for anything that's going on around him. Like he's looking at everything just objectively. You know what I mean?
Yep, and for growth of the business.
Yeah, but I also just think that his character feels really shallow, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, he's only. I can probably count on one hand, like every time you see him. Like,
Oh yeah, because he appears near the start of the film and then he doesn't appear for like a whole another 2 hours. It's crazy. Something like that, hour and a half. Like he disappears for ages. And it's like, oh shit, I forgot. I forgot he was in the film.
And it's annoying because the chick, Love, I think it's right. It's Love.
Yes.
Named replicant.
Yes.
She's like at the beginning. You're like, oh, this is kind of like Rachel, you know. They've like originally kind of like Rachel, the one named replicant under the Megacorp guy, and she was like, okay, she seems a little bit cool, and then she just turns into a fucking Terminator with like super bots and just goes on a murder spree.
There was that scene where she kills, what's her name? Is it? Have a look.
The head police lady, head of the Blade Runners.
LT Joshi. Yeah, there's that scene where she just shoots LT Joshi. I was like, what the fuck? It's like it was such a
LT Joshi.
She's the one that's like she's like the K's boss.
Oh, Lieutenant Joshi.
Yeah, Lieutenant Joshi. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reading it like a retard.
No, she stabs her. Yeah. And
yeah, sorry, she stabs her. Like
leaves her corpse to fucking.
It was
flop on the ground.
It was so like unbelievably out of nowhere when she just stabs her. I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, that's what I don't. She just turned her empathy switch off. She's like, you thought that she might be a Rachel style, try and find her humanity a little bit, but then she just goes the polar opposite and just does everything Wallace wants with her.
I actually quite liked Lieutenant Joshi's character though, for the most part.
Which is too bad.
Like she's
kind of like an auntie figure to.
Yeah, but
her
her conflict with Kay was interesting. Like it was. She was actually one of the most grounded characters of the bunch, I think. She felt like she was actually like real in a way, despite the fact that she's obviously living in a world that's very different to ours and with different, points of view and whatnot. But she feels grounded, she feels honest, she feels real.
Definitely
a girl boss.
Definitely a girl boss. And I'm looking at the character thing. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it.
Oh, I think there's a little bit more than that.
Well, no, but I mean like 7 that are in it. Well, okay, 6 then, because Wallace is barely in it. There's only like 7 people that are 6 people that are regularly in the movie. I think it's fucking 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, I think we briefly touched on it before, but I think one of my favorite, like her position in the plot is really annoying because it's so disconnected, and I don't like the way it's structured. But in terms of just as an isolated thing, I really like Joy, who is the the sort of fake hologram girlfriend he has.
You can buy.
That follows him around. I thought she like her and Kay was like a whole film into itself that was kind of mostly separate from the rest of it. It was like a B
I
plot.
thought it was like my favorite spot. Really. Like
Yeah,
their interactions.
I really
she was
liked...
becoming more human as well, like less.
Yeah,
less
she was
AI
becoming
as
more.
well.
She was becoming more human, and he felt like almost he was becoming less human.
Mm.
It was really It was really interesting because this is such a unique like relationship because you've got a replicant human and a hologram from a computer.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I loved the most about it was the twist when they pan around to that building and you see that she's actually everywhere.
Yeah, you can buy her anywhere. Yeah, she's
like it's not just his
she's
person.
mass produced. Yeah,
like she's mass produced, she's everywhere, and so
yep.
Like that was actually one of my favorite moments of the film was when that was revealed that it wasn't just his personal person. This is someone
Which makes
that's
that scene that you like so much, where he's facing the big purple lady, because that's just after Joy's been killed as well.
Mm.
He's like, "What are we really? I can get another one of her, and there'll be another one of me. At some point, I'm pointless now."
Yeah, it kind of
Make
it's
it
really highlighting the sort of, I guess you could say because a lot of the time when you're young, especially, your parents will tell you what makes you special is that there's no other human being that's like you on the earth. You're all individual and you're all special. But when you're a replicant or when you're a hologram, they can be cloned or can be reproduced, digitally.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of removes that speciality about being who you are. And that's like a what's the word? It's a existential crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the actress who plays her is very, very attractive.
Oh yeah, definitely. She's easily most attractive in the entire movie. God damn.
Mm.
She's like got that young, what's her face look? Young Meg. What's Meg? Who the Meg's voice actor?
Oh, Mila Kunis.
Yeah, she's got like a young Mina Kunis vibe.
Also,
Like,
when she's in the hologram with like near the end of the film, she reminds me a bit of Lady Gaga actually when she's got the blue hair and the black contacts on. It's got like that weird sort of that weird presentation. But I actually quite liked her. I just think that the way they integrated her into the plot was really strange. Like that whole bit where him and Deckard get found at Deckard's little hideout.
Casino, yeah.
And then they stand on the thing that expands her. And she's like, I love you!
I love... Yep. See, that's also why I don't like love just turns into like, let me just be so, what is it? Malevolent? Malevolent?
Oh, fuck, what's the word? Malevolent.
Malevolent, yeah. She just turns into, I'm gonna be as horrible as I can just because I can be as horrible as I can. Like, she didn't need to do that.
And again, the Mariette, the character that has sex with Kay. Yeah. Like again, like that's another like kind of cool side story that they do, but it's so disconnected from the film, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's like, because I remember the old lady with the one eye who was there with the child, and they just bring that in, by the way. Oh, yep, I know the kid. You didn't know about this like the first 2 hours of the film. You only saw her talking to freaking Mariette.
Also, you can definitely tell that she's definitely inspired by that character from the original film. Do you know the one I mean? I'll show you a picture. She's a very minor character in the original Blade Runner, but visually there's definitely an inspiration.
Oh, yeah. The first replicant.
Yeah.
The crazy one. The one that finds the nerd. Lives with the nerd, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
My dad pointed that out too.
One thing I will actually praise about this film, to be fair, and probably the scene with Joy and Mariette combining together is a prime example of this. But this film had like pretty amazing visual effects in terms of execution for the most part. I mean, some of the background vistas were really distracting, especially in bloody Jared Leto's little cave thing.
Yeah.
But I think
it was very June-like.
Yes, it
Actually,
was. I mean, to be fair,
Jared Leto's stuff.
Denis Villeneuve did June as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
How-
very aesthetically pleasing. I had no problems with the visuals or anything at all. That was really what kept me continuously watching. Really, was just like the world itself that they
Yeah.
expanded on.
I mean, obviously,
Which was
like I
nice.
said about the backgrounds, but the main thing, what I mean by impressive visual effects is everything like in the foreground, like in terms of the way that they had bodies like blending with each other. Especially, that was the most impressive visual
Oh yeah, it was
effect,
so
I think.
weird. I was
And
very captivated by it as well.
yeah, and then also the sort of whenever there was a shot of vehicles going through smoke and buildings, like that was just ooh, very pleasing.
Yeah, it was done well. Definitely visually done well.
Yeah, and like all
Really
the
fine. There was none that I could complain about really.
outside
I
of
couldn't see.
outside of Deckard, like the costuming was also really good for this film. You know,
Yeah, Deckard looked like a dad who lives in the boonies or something.
maybe that was the
Just a
point.
little bit. Yeah, I know. It's like the whole because they set it up for him to have lived alone forever.
Yeah.
So, but
Of course, Dr. Anna Stelline is Deckard's daughter. Again, like I really like the whole concept of her little dome. Is like she's so
unique,
so
so
she-
special. That
she's
she
so-
has to be.
well, no, what I mean is she's so immunocompromised that she can't have anyone come into contact with her. That's why she has that glass wall.
Yeah. So maybe she
Um,
isn't perfect because maybe they're playing on the idea of like incest fucks up the kid more. So if Deckard if replicants actually can reproduce, is it the replicant like just weaker because it can't properly grow properly or whatever?
Mutations or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't even know. Like, the fact that they only give you like one clue that that's their daughter is kind of like I didn't really like very much.
It is also like almost a happy but also sad existence as well. The fact that she has to stay inside that dome and pretend like there's a life. And
Yeah.
I think probably my favorite scene with her was when she had to recreate a birthday party that never happened to make her happy. That was like fucking bleak as hell.
Yeah,
Like-
and when she said something, it's like I can have anything I wanted as long as I can think of it, but I can't be free or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not free, but I can have anything. It's kind of like it's kind of sad.
Yeah, it was like it's all like her imagination is her life, really.
Yeah.
But when you're stuck inside that thing for your whole life, you know, it's quite dire.
Yep, and everything you make in there is just not real.
Mm-hmm.
Turn into a schizo probably.
Yeah, I'm surprised she's not more messed up than she is. She seems pretty like
Yeah.
harmonious given her circumstance.
They should have just put Jared Leto in there.
Oh, you know, that would make way more sense. That would
He's
make
been stuck in isolation for 20 years and make him just go buck wild with his crazy character.
Yeah. Yeah, God. Neander Wallace, man. What a weirdo.
Yeah, and he wasn't as old as I thought he would be.
Yeah.
But I guess with technology, we don't know what can happen.
Yeah. The way he spoke, it kind of reminded me of like digital receptionists or like tutorial voices, like pre-recorded stuff. That's what Jared Leto's Neander Wallace reminded me of. It's just like, but it was both dark, but it was also that as well. Like, it was this. He definitely does do the whole replicant idiosyncrasy thing a lot, almost too much.
Yeah, so he's like hyper focused on one specific thing.
Well, I think Jared Leto is a bit of a tryhard, to be honest.
Yeah, as soon as I saw him, I'm like, uh-oh, how's this gonna go? And then it turned too bad.
You know, he was
I'm glad they limited.
They didn't cross the
his,
line with him, but he's just such a like, he just has so much go away heat, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like
I could definitely get that vibe.
like he's kind of a channel changer.
I've just, all the scenes are like, I don't mind his Rachel scene.
Yeah,
Like, that was
that's
cool.
probably his best scene.
But like his first scene when the flopping lady.
The flopping lady.
It's just so. Yeah, I'd rather him just be evil. Like, he doesn't need to be evil and creepy, you know? Like, he does what he has to do to get what he wants, but this doesn't doesn't have anything to do with that, really.
It just
This is
seems
just
like
all this entire scene was just so he could, just for him to be creepy. That's it. You could just take it out completely. And if you just had that Rachel scene and like maybe a different introduction.
Well, I mean,
scene,
what is Jared Leto's character if he doesn't do that performance that he does? He's just generic.
Yeah, and then you could have just got someone else. That's true.
Yeah, it's real weird.
Like that scene was, I was so fascinated in that scene until he started being creepy and like being all philosophical. I'm like, oh my god, you actually see a replicant like being born technically. You have to go and like talk about life and rebirth and like stab her in the womb at the end.
This is so weird, but it's like, I don't know, for some reason Jared Leto's character, the end of Wallace, it's like he goes up to some like mental hospital. And he goes up to like kids and he's just like, have you read the works of Karl Marx? Like, he just seems like the kind of he gives off that pretentious energy, if you know what I mean.
God, he makes me fucking
like he would. I mean, to be fair, didn't his Joker unironically turn to the camera and say, "We live in a society"? In the Snyder Cut trailer.
At least it's a good meme. Sadly, he didn't have any memes in this movie. Unlucky.
No, not really.
Ryan Gosling stole the show with that.
Yeah, that's true. I just like his, like, it's comedy where the character doesn't know he's funny, but we think he's funny, and the director knows he's funny, but the character in universe isn't trying to be funny, but he just is, with Ryan Gosling's K. You know what I mean? Like, he does that. It's the way he doesn't react, and he keeps that stiff like smile that he has, like that almost uncanny valley plastic smile.
Yep, it's like, yeah, this is definitely programmed. You can tell he's not having any, like, and his eyes don't change when he smiles either.
Yeah,
it's like it's like an anti smile.
Yeah. What do you think of those scenes where he would go into for like that testing, where he would sitting in that chair?
Oh, that was confusing as fuck, but that was very, for me, that gave me like original original Blade Runner vibes. Like, it's like
that reminds me of. It reminded me of that. I think it is in the opening scene of the first film, like when they're sitting in those chairs, and they're scanning the eyes. It did remind me a little bit of that.
Yeah, so I think that's cool, and I think it's like necessary. It's to check how human they've become, I guess. If they've fallen off, what was it? I can't remember what the line or whatever. They're well off basis,
Yeah, and like
that's
sort of
cool.
Halfway through the film, he does a test and he's changed a lot.
Yeah, because he found the horse or something. So even though he's not one, this horse and memory interaction is causing him to question it, meaning he's not.
Yeah.
He's becoming too emotional. He's becoming too human, which I thought was cool. Speaking
of finding the horse, we also had the character Mr. Cotton, the guy running the labor camps.
Yeah.
With the sick kids with the bald heads. This was like one of the most surprisingly like really fucked up things in the film. Like I was just like so taken aback by just, he walks into this camp, there's all these bald sick children slaving away, and there's this guy running it all.
Actual child labor.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
And then if no one wants to adopt them, they labor forever, or they get sold off.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the child labor camps added to the world building, for sure.
Oh no, yeah, I think it was and that's where obviously the child got left at one point, the memory. So it was okay linkage to it. So I think it was satisfying world building because it's like it added to the bleakness. But like I don't think they needed the fucking scene where he gets hit by the hobos and all the fucking Love had to do a drone strike and kill like 30 homeless people.
Oh yeah, there was that. I completely forgot about that scene actually.
I don't know why that was. They could have just had him flying, and then getting his car shot at a couple times, and then that's it. But instead, he get crashed and then saved, and then she's like droning them with an invisible drone with missiles. Just like that's allowed. Gotcha.
You know what the setting in that scene kind of reminded me of. You know that that setting in Thor Ragnarok where they go to that junk planet that Jeff Goldblum's on. It reminded me of that, but it was like bleak. Like bleak dystopian background.
Actually being like. But yeah, I didn't mind that part of the world was good. With like just cut out, they should have just cut out that whole drone strike shit. It was so unnecessary, so fucking dumb.
Yeah, it was
Like
weird.
we already know she's evil. She punched that fucking autistic-looking guy in the fucking back of the head and killed him.
Yeah, it's like the thing is with the original Blade Runner is it rode this really nice balance on the line of being both subtle and having subtext, but also being translated through visuals and dialogue. Right? There was this really nice, neat, continuous, consistent, like execution to the way it was written and directed and acted. Whereas with this film, it bounces from being heavy-handed to being too subtle to being like confused and not expressing what it should to sometimes over express it. It was so all over the place in terms of its execution.
Yep.
And like what it was and like how it was trying to convey its messages. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, I fucking get it, stop. And then other times I'm just like, hang on, am I stupid? Can you please explain what just happened?
Yeah.
It was really weird.
Like when the chick tells him the memory's real and he goes, fuck, and just like does his massive fucking rage, you're like, oh shit, he's got to be the son. But then you're like, then they say daughter and he's like, what? And then he just instantly knows who it is. It's like,
so,
why the fuck
was,
did he instantly know it was that chick?
It was so weird, like seeing him do that rage moment, like Hulk smash. It was just so jarring. And then he politely walks out the door. That was so funny. I don't know if that was intended. It just made me fucking howl. It was so funny. Because he's just like fuck, and then he walks out the door. Bye bye.
Yep, he's just bounced on a massive balancing act of keeping control of himself.
You know, it's funny how like in the last few weeks we've been talking like how funny The Sims is and how like funny all their actions are. This film reminded me a lot of The Sims in terms of the way that they were acting.
Just overly expressive for like one moment and then just go back to being a normal fucking robot after it. Jesus Christ, dude.
But the difference is that that's a programmed video game with like avatar characters.
Yes,
this is like a live action film with humans playing the characters, and yet they're so hilariously robotic. Oh yeah, that was funny. Yeah, I think that's like one of the main, outside of some of the Ryan Gosling great like dry humor. A lot of this film was like comedically weird and just so tonally confused in terms of comedy.
Well, it doesn't need. Yeah, that's just the Hollywood aspect. It doesn't need to be funny. It would have been better if it just didn't. Besides, like the odd like dark joke, but other than that, there shouldn't have just been. It's not.
We did get a cameo from Gaff, who was from the original Blade Runner. When he was asked about Rick Deckard. I thought that was a nice little moment.
Yeah, it was, but the thing is, it was only cameo for cameo's sake. There was like gave us nothing.
Yeah, I think it's acceptable though. I can see why they did it. It was, I mean, it's nice to have, you know, a character who was in the first film reappear for like one scene, you know.
Yeah, that was cool. I kind of wish there was like with Rick Deckard as well.
Yeah,
I'm more leaning towards that.
Yeah, although
like
to be
maybe
fair,
if they got jumped and then he got jumped, they didn't have a fucking fight scene, and then he got to meet Rachel. Like if he was just like constantly needing rescue or something, that'd probably been a better.
Although one thing I will say is that it just made me want to watch the first film again because Gaff in that film is so fun. He's such a great character. Oh,
that film's so good.
Oh, that film's so good.
Hour 40 minutes either.
That film is just so like watertight and beautifully.
I had a plan to rewatch. To watch this 2049 twice, but then I fucking remembered how long it was. I'm like, fucking hell, I'm not watching this twice. I do have the sit down time, but I feel like it'd just be not worth it.
Yeah, do you think it's a little bit negligent that they named the slave owner Mr. Cotton?
Yeah, and they're looking for cotton.
Yeah,
I don't think it.
I mean, the way they were doing it is like they were having a black dude and slave white kids and have them pick cotton. I was like, Is that like what's up with that?
I don't know.
Like that again just feels like it's trying to subvert history in a way.
Yeah, I guess so, but in the sense that it's child labor, it could be anyone on top, I think.
That's true, but just like the context of what we were showing, like it was literally a black guy called Mr. Cotton enslaving white kids. Like
yeah, it could have honestly it could have just been a bad joke. That didn't
I guess I understand that, but I just don't know if that's tasteful.
Yeah, I think it just wasn't tasteful. It didn't bother me. Well, obviously it can't bother me, but yeah, I think it was just lazy.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Like.
I mean, it doesn't offend me at all because I'm not really part of that. Like, I'm not really relevant to that thing. It's just it's just cringe.
Yeah, I thought yeah, just didn't even get a chuckle out of it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I didn't even know his name was Mr. Cotton until you told me. Like,
well, now you know.
Wasn't even paying attention.
Then there was Fraser, that woman with like one eye. That's in the twist
with, like, two
scene.
scenes.
Yeah. She did like the big info dump.
Character.
She did like the big info dump on Kay, like basically telling him that we're all replicants.
The only other time we see her is when she gets tries to get Marriott.
Honestly,
to flirt with him.
That scene where he's sitting there with the bandages and she's telling him the truth about the replicants, like I get what the scene was going for. That's probably one of my least favorite scenes in the film. It was just so dull and like such a wet fart, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it turned into a fucking let's fight for hope film because we know we can't change it, but this is what we need to do for the future.
Oh god, that's so Hollywood.
I'm like, oh my god, I want to put a bullet in my brain. I watched 2 hours just for this, for a fucking, like I like the K twists, like I love K, but then the fact that it turned into a hope film and he's just a fighter for hope and he's no personality again anymore. It's just like, oh.
Yep.
Oh.
There was Coco, who was that dude who got killed by Love. And
the beginning of a Terminator arc.
That I will say his death was brutal, like the way he fell on the floor and his head just sort of sunk in and his eyes started bleeding.
She like punched him in the back of the neck, like broke all his vertebrae at the top of his skull or something, and he just bled out. And then, it was a.
Yeah, this film definitely had some brutal deaths and like fatalities, if you know what I mean.
I didn't mind the action scenes because they were filmed. So most of them were quick and short, which I kind of like.
The one that really annoyed me was that one with like, there was an explosion when Deckard, when Kay was in Deckard's house, and there was that explosion that was right next to him, and there was no damage. It was so weird.
Shot the car. Or was it a different explosion?
No, the one where he was inside Deckard's house.
I don't remember. I don't think.
Okay. Anyway, and then there was also that whole like that fight that happened when they crashed into his house and like took them. There was that weird scene where he was knocked out and they were by that like campfire. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that's what he woke up to or whatever. That was so fucking pointless too. I don't know what the fuck was going on there, dude.
It's like a hallucination.
Campfire.
It's like a hallucination or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he woke up. He's like, wow, okay. So he got left there, and then he got saved by the rebels in the fucking Star Wars universe. You know what? Come join the fight for hope for us.
This is probably good. Hopefully this doesn't ruin the film for anyone because it's so funny. But you know what the aesthetic of this film reminded me of? It reminded me of like how it feels to chew 5 gum.
Yeah, like fucking boring dog shit, and then suddenly it picks up and just goes fucking crazy.
No, but you know what I mean though, like how to chew 5 gum, like those ads and like the way the visual style was done. This film reminded me a lot of those ads. How it feels to chew 5 gum.
I've only seen the memes of those ads, so I don't know. How to chew 5 gum.
Stimulate your senses.
Stimulate your senses.
I just remembered though, there is one scene from this film that made me absolutely crack up. It was when he was about to kiss bloody what's her name, Joy, and then she gets paused like in the middle of it, and he gets like a call from someone, but she's still standing there. That fucking made me laugh so much.
It actually made me sad.
Yeah,
I like that scene. But yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a good scene, but there was just something about the visual of her just standing there paused with her eyes closed. It was so like, whoa, this is weird.
There's love. We can talk about how much I hate love.
Yeah, you go ahead. Go ahead, talk about your hate boner for love.
Well, she gets introduced, so they try and keep it similar to the original, right? She's the one who meets the Blade Runner at the research place and gets taken through it all, helps him find it. Then he meets and then lets her go, and she tears up once, I think, when at some of the memories of stuff. And then she just turns into a murderous robot. It's like, why are you showing any emotion? Why does she need a name if she's all she is what is K's op? Like she all she does in the entire movie is follow him and kill everyone all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they give you so much hope for a character that she's going to be like another Rachel and like be closest one to humanity because it's the closest one to Wallace. But it's like, no, Wallace wants the baby. I need you to do your job. So she punches that fucking nerd in the back of the throat, kills him, stabs the frickin' police officer lady in the gut just because she's like, oh, I'll say that Wallace, you attacked me. Well, I'll tell Wallace that you attacked me and I had to defend myself. It's like, no, we already know you're a psychotic bitch. And then when she needs her facial scan, she just picks her up, gets the scan of her face, and then drops her again, and her head bangs on the fucking desk and just falls on the ground again. She went from like. My problem is she went from like them showing us that she might try and have some emotions to having none.
Mm.
She literally turned into like a Terminator.
Yeah,
she's such a bad fucking character.
It just felt
she
so.
never questioned what she did ever.
It just felt like so thematically disconnected from what the film was trying to do with its emotional arcs, and if you know what I mean.
Definitely.
One other thing that I actually did like what Joy did was when she was like trying to dress up for him. That was really funny. When she put all those different aesthetic clothes on.
Oh yeah, just changes, just showing off the technology.
Yeah.
It's fucking. Yeah,
dude,
honestly...
I'm scrolling because I've got this up on VLC. I'm scrolling through this film. It's so uneventful in 3 hours. Like, crazy how uneventful the film is.
Yeah. I gave it quite a high rating off initial watch, but the more I thought about it, this dropped.
Which is interesting because the original Blade Runner had the opposite.
Yeah, we gave it lower ratings in the beginning and it went up.
It went all the way up to a 10 by the end because we were like, holy shit, this is a masterpiece. Like, everything about it is so good. Yeah.
This one's just like, wait, why was this here? What's the point of this character?
Yeah. So
what the fuck does this scene mean?
Interesting bit of knowledge. Since the last video, you have read Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is the book that it's adapted from. So, like, now that you've read that and you have context of that and related that to the first film, how do you think, like, this film, Blade Runner 2049, does it do things from the source material that the first doesn't at all? Or is it just its own thing?
I was trying to think about that. Yeah, I guess it did. The whole idea that there can be replicant versions of Blade Runners and stuff. So they didn't fully dive into that aspect of that. There's replicants that don't know they're replicants, which I guess Kay was kind of questioning. What else? The flower scene where he finds a little bit of life. I think in the books, Deckard himself did find a little bit of life way out in the middle bumfuck nowhere. So I think that is a little bit of a linkage. But I think the original still is still a bit closer to the book than this one is, definitely. But this one definitely expands on the world, which I guess the first one couldn't do.
Yeah, that is one thing. I mean, it's tough, right? Because like, it makes the world much bigger. It does more things with the world than the first one does. But yet, despite doing all of that, the actual story it's telling is a lot weaker,
Yeah.
despite the expanded world.
It's more like a documentary of a replicant.
It almost makes me think, would this idea for this film have worked better if it was like done in like a TV series format, maybe, or like a video game,
probably.
or like a video game,
like a storytelling video game. Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Well,
I feel
given how many set pieces there are that can make up like episodes or make up like levels in a game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it just tries to do too much, I think, really. Not enough focus on K himself. I don't think too much focus on the set pieces.
Honestly, this might be heresy, and just sort of like people probably disagree with this, but I think this film would be a lot better if Rick Deckard wasn't in it.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
The whole it just ruins having him in it ruins the ending of the last film, and then fucking just makes it a fucking when they add him in and then he doesn't. That's like when you click that he's not his fucking son because he just never knew that there was no son the whole time. So it's just like, what was the point of this fucking journey? You could have just not. You'd have just done detective work or something instead, and not seen Deckard. We didn't need him in it. It would have been better if he just died too at some point. You just cut him off, dude. Off screen him. So, yeah, I think he was.
It's interesting though because
it's a plot feature, not a fucking plot point. I think
it's interesting though because the screenplay for this film was done by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green, and Hampton Fancher also did the screenplay for the original Blade Runner. So they were there writing the first film, and now they're also writing this film as well.
Which is probably not good, to be honest.
I think that
they burnt themselves out on the first one.
Yeah, I also think this is where I think my main issue is that I think that with Fancher and Ridley Scott, they were very much in sync. Like everything that Scott was doing with the direction was to aid that script that Fancher wrote. For Blade Runner. I mean, obviously, it is somewhat of an adaptation of the book, but it is its own thing, right?
Yeah.
But it felt like all of Scott's direction was done to aid that story that Fancher was telling in the writing. Whereas this was Fancher wrote a script for 2049, and then Denis Villeneuve went in and just put his own visual shit in between all of the lines.
Yeah.
Like, it just felt like Denis Villeneuve was writing half of the film with his camera.
Yeah, especially the desert scene. It's just so unnecessary. I like seeing the technology, but you don't need to save 7, 2, 4, 9, and then the bee scene.
Yeah,
it's
bees,
just random
man.
metaphors for life. It's just like they chucked in random metaphors and just to be for the sake of it.
Was it would it be fair to say that a lot of Denis Villeneuve's little set pieces that had no dialogue in it were super pretentious?
Yeah, it's why the bees were there. Wow, you found a little bit of real life. Why the fuck is it in the middle of the desert? How is it even there? How is it even there?
What relevance does this have to the plot?
Nothing. He just took a break and took a walking through the radioactive desert and found some bees. And put his hand. And he put his hand in, and comes out with the bees, and then leaves again.
See, the thing is though, the thing is with this sort of exploration of stuff, right? When you look at a film like, say, The Revenant, for example, it has these scenes where Leonardo DiCaprio's character goes and explores all these different bits of Dakota, and it's relevant to his life, and he has hallucinations and whatnot. But it always feels connected to the narrative that the film is telling. There's always this through line of this is his journey. Whereas with Blade Runner 2049, it feels like K is in 3 different films all at once. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's he's in a film that's in this Blade Runner agency thing, but he's also got a film with Rick Deckard, but then he's also got this weird artsy fartsy fucking museum of visuals and metaphors as well, but then he's also got a romance with his hologram girlfriend too. And like thematically, in terms of like technology and society, they all are relevant to the same idea, but in terms of actual like cinema, they are so just disconnected in a lot of ways.
It's a like Kay's performance was definitely the brightest part of that film. It's Ryan Gosling after all, so it's not what's else to be expected. But yeah, it just seems so forced in so many ways. I can pick out like maybe 10 scenes that I think are really good, probably.
Yeah,
but like overall, it's like not.
Yeah.
It's not good.
What did you think of the last scene when Kay like lies down on the the stairwell and dies?
I didn't mind it. It was a little cliche, but it was like a. So at least that was tied in and like foreshadowed by the fucking hooded mother, Fraser, because she's like, if we die, we all want to be that child. This is our hope. That dream is our hope. So it's like, don't you want to die for a cause? So it's like, okay, so he's gonna die. Cool. To be honest, I would have found it funny if he lost to that. He lost to Love in the Water and actually died, and then they just took off and won anyway. Yep, the bigger corporation won. The puny hero didn't win. But then he pops out of the water and just fucking WWE chokes her against the fucking thing.
Well, that's what Dave Bautista's character tried to do to Kay at the start of the film. Try to go through a wall. I love that scene where he's got his like head. He's like bashing it against that wall. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Just this is my first impression of Denis Villeneuve. I've never seen one of his films before, but I've heard a lot of good things about him. I think the thing I had to say about him is he knows how to make something look awesome, like visually, like look aesthetically really cool, and impressive visual effects and lighting and smoke and scale, and he's able to understand how to make things look impressive, especially I imagine on a movie screen as well. So he's definitely one of those directors that is able to visualize things really well. But my issue with him is that his sort of... I just find the way that his direction interacts with the writing really jarring. Like in terms of narrative, in terms of just the actual pure substance of when you close your eyes and like don't look at the pretty pictures, like what is the actual story doing? And it feels so distracted. You know what I mean?
He's a very good settings guy, definitely.
He's very good with like vibes, if you know what I mean. Good with vibes.
No, it's like the movie was a vibe, like the soundtrack, like queued up with the visuals.
Yeah, super immersive.
As soon as you get some it's when they start talking, you're just like, half time you're like, oh fucking, here we go.
Yeah, like
should have just been a silent movie.
Like the whole setting and vibe was very immersive, but the actual characterization and narrative wasn't. That's sort of my overall take on it.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I will say though, I think you praised this near the start. Benjamin Wallfisch and Hans Zimmer did a great, really unique score for the film in terms of the music. Like it was so different. It was so different to most other films you get. There was no bombast. There was no like strings or trumpets or horns or anything. It was all just like cyber tech bass noises and eerie
dystopian cyber music. Yeah, it's nice.
It was super unique. That's probably the one thing about the film that I thought was like great, and like I wouldn't change anything about it, was the music. It was fantastic.
Definitely.
Really,
I can definitely see this being the predecessor to June's like style, like the way that he filmed those scenes, set those scenes. Definitely.
Yeah.
This gave all the ideas.
Do you think maybe the end fight was trying to replicate the? Funny, I say the word replicate. Do you think it was trying to reference the sort of tears and rain thing by having a fight in the rain?
I think it was a little. I think they mixed that fight scene and the one where he's fleeing from Deckard. I think both those scenes kind of we're trying to like, we're taking, not, I don't know if it was representing or if they're like just homages to it. Because it was like in an abandoned building, Kay is hiding from Deckard this time. Deckard's not doing the one hiding, and you don't know when he's gonna get found, blah blah blah. And it's kind of spooky and scary, and like, oh god, is he gonna die? And then, but the last fight scene was a little bit too actiony for me, for it to be. So I think that scene in the casino was probably more like.
If you remember, when we reviewed the first Blade Runner film, the way I critiqued the end fight with Deckard and the Dutch replicant guy, I can't remember his name. There was so much purpose to every movement and every moment, like character wise.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just a cool action fight, like it was an actual interaction between people. It was like almost like a physical conversation with like a whole narrative running through it. And that's what was so impressive about it. Yeah,
definitely. Whereas
with this film, the fight at the end with like the cars and whatnot, it just felt like an action scene.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that annoyed me. Just this movie kind of, Blade Runner just got too Hollywoodified. Yeah, or like a film that you'd expect to be super artistic and full of subtext has so many moments that feel very stylish and not. Yeah, it's like the fucking the move. It's like they've got the Blade Runner, right? The story, which is like a packet of chips, right, that you buy at like McDonald's or whatever, and then Hollywood is the sauce, and they can't help it, but they got to keep dipping it in before they fucking consume and make it. So it's just like, oh, it's like Blade Runner, and it's like, oh, here's a little bit of Hollywood. Don't forget about us. Oh, a little bit of Hollywood. Didn't mind the action scenes, but yeah, there's quite a bit of Hollywood dipping in here and there, which was a little bit inevitable, but disappointing.
Sometimes I can't tell if it's intentional or not, but like I've noticed that it's the case in this film. It's also the case in some other films, but like I feel like Harrison Ford these days just doesn't really give a shit.
He's just too old now. He's made his best works. We all respect him and love him. He'll go down as a great actor. Just let him retire. Jesus
like he doesn't seem to take films like too seriously these days like he used to.
He's just too old, I think. Like, he did all the Indiana Jones. He was fucking Han Solo.
Oh, this is interesting. So now we're on to the trivia. Here's a really interesting bit of trivia. So you know Jared Leto's character Neander Wallace?
Yeah.
Apparently the first choice that Villeneuve had for that role was David Bowie. But he died before the start of shooting.
David Bowie?
Yeah.
Like the David Bowie? Wow.
Like the David Bowie, but he died unfortunately before they started shooting the film, so they had to replace him.
David. Interesting.
Like old David Bowie.
Maybe they changed the writing for it too.
Maybe.
I think it would suit the age. It would have like the age look would have.
But I also think it would have suited his like charisma. He's like so charismatic.
Yeah, it would have been good. It would be more like a businessman rather than
a
psycho.
he also naturally has one blue eye and one brown eye, which is crazy.
Right. Yeah, no, that would have been good. I would have liked that. They'd be more like a charismatic businessman rather than a fucking creepy psycho. They probably had to change all the writing. Because no, that would have been cool, and the age thing would have suited because Wallace technically was a businessman during that time as well. So it's not, why does he look younger than Deckard when he probably been in business when Deckard was a? So they could have done a casting change, maybe someone older. How old? His films have grossed more than $5.4 billion in North America, Harrison Ford. He's 80, dude. Yeah, just let him fucking retire, man.
Let him do his environmental projects.
His whole character's all his characters built on charisma and being a dude. He's too old to do that now. He can't play a different role anymore. Let him be.
So the baseline test that Kay must recite back, you know that scene I was talking about before? System of cells interlinking within cells interlinked within cells interlinked. Apparently that was Ryan Gosling's idea.
Oh, I liked it. I liked it.
He employed an acting technique called dropping in, which induced a trance-like and hypnotic effect on his performance.
Huh.
It's crazy.
I'm glad that he added that cells interlinked one. It was a bit confusing and creepy, but it was cool because it suited like the old test that they used to do. It gave that vibe.
Oh, so apparently, originally, Ridley Scott had a different introduction in mind for Rick Deckard and Blade Runner. In the end, he ended up choosing the noodle scene. But when Denis Villeneuve introduced Kay, he used the unused scene that was supposed to be done for Rick Deckard in the original Blade Runner, which became the farm scene with the discovery of the tree.
Yeah, because I think that farm scene is more similar to the book.
Yeah, I noticed that. As soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, that reminds me of what I remember about the book." From what I've heard about it. That whole visual of those farms, though, that was fucking wild. Like when they showed
honestly,
you
it was one of my favorite scenes, like that original one.
Like that whole
growing fucking bugs. Hey, you want protein? Here's your protein.
but do you remember like the whole visual of it, like just the massive circles, just this massive vista of metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of like, because we eventually gonna run out of space, so we're gonna have to maximize.
Yeah, honestly, the film started really well. Like that opening scene is actually really, really good.
Yeah, it is. It's very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Probably my favorite. One of my favorite scenes actually is the one where he sets it all up. Yeah, best. That's probably my favorite scene actually. Yeah, the first one. I'm like, yo, that's Batista. What the fuck he's doing in here? I just originally thought it was gonna be bad, but it was actually one of the best scenes in the movie. Because I remember the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 trailer where he throws the ball as hard as he can at a kid's head.
Oh, apparently there's 3 short films that fill the gap between the original and this film. I didn't know that. They all came out in 2017. Like the first one's called Blackout 2022, then there's one called 2036 Nexus Dawn, and then there's 2048 Nowhere to Run. And they're all short films.
Blade Runner short films.
And the last 2 of them were directed by Luke Scott, who was Ridley Scott's son. The first one's done by Shinichiro Watanabe.
So are they animes?
Yeah, looks like it.
You watch them all on YouTube, it says.
That's interesting. Yeah, they are. I think. Could be wrong.
Blackout 2022 is the first in the row, followed by.
Oh no, they're not. Not some of them aren't. Some of them are live action.
Okay, maybe I'll give those a geese. At some point.
What happened?
Two civil wars. Fucking half the planet got nuked.
I think Dave Bautista's character is quite major in the short films. Like establishing his character. That's interesting. The giant joy in the hologram advertisement was supposed to be her default setting, like like the naked one that they show when he's on the bridge.
Yeah.
And the idea is that Kay customized her voice and appearance to be less sexualized. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, because I didn't know that was actually the same one. That makes the scene so much better. It's sad that scene is probably the best meme template to come from it.
Yeah.
Just him, and you can just put any billboard, any shiny billboard thing on the other side that he's looking at, no matter what it is. It's so sad.
Ryan Gosling has described it as a future in which Steve Jobs never existed, so all technology focuses on function rather than aesthetics. Huh.
Function rather than aesthetics. Well, that makes sense, because shit's ugly.
Yeah.
I guess that's the dystopian feel as well.
Yeah.
Yes, that's just dystopia, dude.
In order to portray, oh, here we go. Here comes the cringe. In order to portray the blind character of Neander Wallace, Jared Leto decided to fit himself with opaque contact lenses, so it made it impossible for him to see.
Of course. Well, he definitely got the fucking creepy part done. Jesus Christ, man. He goes way above and beyond, man.
Oh, he's certainly he's certainly a dedicated actor. I don't know how much of that is a good or a bad thing, but he's certainly dedicated.
But he has had some good roles, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, but he's also a massive asshole, and he has a cult. And he like went into the desert in hibernation, and when COVID started, he came back, and he's like, "What happened?"
Oh, what the fuck?
He's just such a weird person.
The outside is supposedly not too bad. I haven't seen. From what I'm scanning, it doesn't look like he has many.
Mm.
Oh, he's in Nexus Dawn, which is the short film. One of the short films. Probably explaining his takeover as the big bad mega corporation.
Mm. What do you think about all those little scenes where there's like throwbacks to the 60s? There's quite a few throwbacks to the 60s in this film. Like one of them is like when there's that little globe in Deckard's bar that's playing that. Is that singer on there?
That singer. It's Elvis Presley,
no,
dude.
No, because Elvis Presley was on the stage. I'm talking about the globe.
On the globe?
It's like a little globe thing in his bar.
It's that lady. Oh my god.
No, Elvis Presley was in the theater.
Was in the theater?
Yeah, he was in the theater scene.
On the bar. I don't remember the bar one.
Yeah, well, pay attention. Frank Sinatra was the jukebox one. That's right.
Frank Sinatra. No, yeah, I liked the music. All the music was good.
Yeah. What did you think? I mean, I did like the comedy in it, but that action scene in the theater where like they'd shoot and it would play like a second of the song and then it would go silent again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's why I think that scene was more like the Deckard's the one doing the hunting now or whatever.
God, imagine if those short films had been part of the film. The film would have like actually been 3 hours at least.
I would have fallen asleep.
They just wanted to do so much, didn't they? They just wanted to do so much.
But it didn't feel like the only film recently I've watched that's like 3 hours is like, I don't know, Endgame, I guess, but Endgame there's like so much setup from all the other films and there's like it's always active. There's not fucking dog shit fucking panning scenes showing the fucking desert. All these naked tittied statues that are just falling over.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's like, why do you need to show this? It's fucking all burnt up. Don't just fly over. You don't need to... Just, yeah, do some shots flying to where you're going. You don't need to stop to fucking put your hand in a bee fucking thing.
Apparently there was 1,150 visual effects shots.
1,000. Is that I'm not film buffy. Is that a lot of visual effects?
That is a lot. That is a lot. But also, director Denis Villeneuve instituted shooting on real sets on real locations as much as possible. So it actually could have been even more.
Jesus.
So apparently the solar farms in the beginning were filmed at a thermo solar power station in Spain. And Sabah Morton's farm was filmed in Iceland.
Oh yeah, because it was bleak as fuck, so of course it was filmed in a desolate place.
Iceland.
They gave it sound. Oh, that's blackout.
So apparently the reason why his name's Neander Wallace is because, you know, Neanderthals is what it's supposed to be. You know.
Whoever thought of that? So fucking... Is that from the original?
No, the idea is like Homo sapiens, right?
I know the idea, but I want to know who thought of it before I call it, say it fucking generic cringe and they couldn't think of anything else. Like, I like it when it's like you think about it and then you go, oh wow, not like Neander. Oh okay, yeah, Neanderthal. Fucking moron. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Nah, that's a bit too obvious. That one didn't like it.
Ana de Armas had no problem performing the nude scenes, but she refused to cut her hair short for the role, so they used a wig instead.
Wait, which one's Anna play?
She plays Joy.
Oh, Joy. Okay.
Yeah. She doesn't care about
She's
being
hot,
naked.
dude.
Oh yeah, she doesn't care about being naked, but she does care about having her hair cut short.
That's good. Hey, you gotta draw the boundary. What else is she in? Have I seen her in other things? Oh, she's
She's
in
got-
Knives Out. I haven't watched
Yeah,
that
she's
yet.
she's quite a well-known actress.
Grey Men. Haven't seen that yet. That looks kind of generic action. Oh, she's in No Time to Die. She's obviously, yeah, she's a new actor. New. Anything else that's actually good? Not really. But yeah, she's hot as shit, dude.
Oh yes.
Super smoking. Woken. Which makes it perfect that she's designed to look like that way.
Oh, there was 3 from the original film. Harrison Ford, Edward James Olmos, and Sean Young.
Sean Young. They obviously did like the face thing on her to make her look young. Again.
Must have, yeah.
She's old and fat now. How old is she now?
Don't know.
Doesn't really matter.
Emily Blunt was considered for a role but declined due to her pregnancy.
Emily Blunt. Who's she again?
She is in Avatar, Puss in Boots, Edge of Tomorrow.
Things where she's not blue or animated. I can't picture any of those. Jesus
A Quiet Place Part 2, Mary Poppins Returns. Oh, that's upcoming. Oh, no, that's previous. My bad. Yeah, she's in A Quiet Place. Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, Edge of Tomorrow. Emily Blunt.
She plays Rita in Edge of Tomorrow. She's in Luke.
Oh, I recognize her now. Yeah.
She
So,
plays.
who is she gonna act?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Oh.
Like Juliet Hobbs in The Simpsons. That's weird.
Oh yeah, I recognize her from Sicario as well. That's the one I watched recently.
Mm.
She was in A Quiet Place. I've seen that. Da-da-da.
Jared Leto traveled to Budapest, Hungary in 2016 to film a scene that was done in just under 2 weeks.
What scene was it? Do you know?
The ones that he was in. All of them.
Oh, that's right. He only had 3 or whatever. 2.
I'm talking about all of his scenes, not just one of
I
them.
forget. He's the main villain, but doesn't.
He's barely in the film.
Yeah, he's.
I mean,
the
to be
big
fair,
plotter.
you could say that Love is the main villain.
That's true. But she's doing it for him. It's like her blind.
No, it has to be that. Do you know why? Because Ryan Gosling and Jared Leto do not share a scene in this film. You know how fucking weird that is? They don't share a single scene. That's probably why it feels so disconnected, because the main protagonist and the main antagonist never see each other.
Yeah, but that's also a bit more realistic. Like, why would this megacorp guy?
I guess so.
Doesn't need to.
I guess so.
Fucking...
I suppose, but does that make for a good story though?
No, absolutely not.
Maybe that's part of the issue with this film, is it feels a bit too real.
I don't know. I definitely underperformed. Performed beneath my expectations. Sadly, I think I was never expecting a 10 out of 10, but Jesus Christ.
We never know. We never know what happens to Neander Wallace. His fate will remain unknown until a possible Blade Runner 3 happens. How likely do you think that is that we get a third one?
I hope we don't. Because if we're on a repeating trend, it's gonna be worse than this one, and I don't want that. And then they'll just ruin the legacy completely.
You know what's interesting?
Just end it. They won't make it before Ford's dead. So Or yes, maybe do just wait till he dies and then make another one.
What's funny? The first piece of dialogue in this film starts more than 5 minutes into it.
That's not too bad, obviously. Then though,
I'm pretty sure it's that. I'm pretty sure it's that conversation that Kay has with Sapper, right? When they're in that kitchen and they're talking about the garlic.
Yeah, probably.
They're like, "Wow, what's garlic? I've never had garlic before."
Would you like some?
That's pretty funny. Would you like some garlic? What's garlic? That's one of the best things about futuristic stuff is when they don't know the things that are normal to us.
Yeah, it's basically it's fine. Like I didn't notice that there was no dialogue for 5 minutes because it was the set part of the scene was actually really good. It was so good. It kind of like did the opposite. It kind of like the best shit was at the beginning, and then it kind of like fell off, and then the best shit was at the end in the original.
Yeah.
And final verdict: too bloody long. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So
that could have been a 1 hour. Let me think. That could have been easily a 2-hour movie and been better. To be honest, I think.
I'm sure there was a way. Yeah. Give your conclusion and a rating out of 10 for Blade Runner 2049.
Conclusion and rating. Well, because of said people involved, the audio is absolutely marvelous. The visuals effects are great. My fucking brain rot brain did like some of those action scenes, even though my love for Blade Runner brain would punch that other part of my brain in the fucking head. So overall it was good. It was more disappointing than I wished it to be. So I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. It was originally a 7 when I first watched it, but the more I thought about it and how many useless, pointless scenes there are, and the twist, and then the battle and then too many cliches basically dragged it down a point.
Yeah, it probably doesn't help that we're stacking it up against the first film, which is like a masterpiece of cinema. It's like a timeless piece of art. It's beautiful. But
like I'd still say this is a good film, yeah. But
it's a decent film, but it's just so weird. It's like so. It just feels like it needs to be more focused. You know, it feels like it dawdles, and it's it's so bloated and excessive, and almost like maybe there was too many cooks in the kitchen, or something like that. There was like a disconnect between the creative forces behind the film. Hollywood definitely seems like it's influenced on it too much.
Yep.
I almost wonder if a sort of almost retroactive fanboy, like cult classic love of the first film has caused this one to become too bloated and almost too focused on being something like the first is trying to be, if you get what I mean. Whereas the first film isn't like that. Like the first film is what it is, whereas this one is doing everything trying to live up to the idea of what the popularity is behind the idea of Blade Runner based on what people love about it, you know, as opposed to not having to deal with all that. And I guess with the original film, the only scrutiny was by book readers, but that's a much smaller, you know, audience to worry about, and it doesn't because of how different it is to the source material. Like I feel like Blade Runner feels like it's its own thing, but with 2049 it's so weird. A lot of the characters are weird. Kay is genuinely really fun, but I feel like his whole character arc is really jumbled and unfocused, and once it gets to the second half of the film, it becomes super. It becomes less about him. It becomes more about like the whole plot of everything. And I think the involving Rick Deckard and the entire thing of it just makes everything so weirdly forced and strange, and thematically things feel jumbled. It feels like a bunch of really interesting ideas that are blended together just purely to subvert human society's biggest faults when it comes to things like, you know, the value of life, existential crisis, the ecosystem failing, technology, and then things like, you know, slavery and all that, and abuse and memories. Like, all these ideas are great, but the way that they're executed in this film doesn't feel consistent. It doesn't feel succinct. The way it's handled feels too subversive and not tasteful and clever enough. And it kind of fits into that weird modern style of trying too hard to be something alternative as opposed to being genuinely creative.
Yeah.
And so whilst there's a lot of things I really like about the film, mostly Ryan Gosling's performance and a lot of the visual effects and some of the ideas, and obviously the music is brilliant, but at the same time there's a lot that really annoyed me about it. The pacing, the structure, some of the external characters to the lead, the weirdly wasted world building, the inconsistent tone and narrative style,
just how it switched from being character development to, oh, well, you're gonna die fighting now. Fuck your character development, dumbass.
Yeah. It's really, really weird. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think 6 out of 10 sounds right. Like, it's
like, because you can still like it, but you can't hate it, you know?
Like it's not a bad film, but it's a really weird film. And it's a disappointing film based on what you would expect from a Blade Runner film.
Yeah.
You know? That's the big takeaway I have, and I was let down by the film.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Especially hearing so many, especially because I heard so many great things about it. You know?
Yeah, I think it's because, maybe they didn't like the original as much as we did. So.
Well, I don't know. No idea. But I fucking love the original so much. And if any of you who don't know that, you can go back and rewatch our original Blade Runner review, because we absolutely creamed all over it. It was just such a great film.
I watched that like 2.5 times or whatever before doing the video.
Yeah.
I was only motivated to watch this one like once, and I'm like, oh fuck, now thank God that's over.
Yeah, like we were so enthusiastic about that one, whereas this one was just like, it was a slog. It was an absolute slog. Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I feel like there was way more banter the last time too, because we were just in such a great mood, but now we're just like, ugh.
Oh, we have to do this. Yeah, I literally just woke up from a nap. As I realized, I fell asleep. My alarms, obviously I didn't set my alarm. I thought I did.
Anyway.
And I woke up and I'm like, oh shit. I was like, remembering, I like realized I was asleep. I'm like, fuck, I have that thing with Connor. I woke up and it's like 9:15. I'm like, oh shit, I'm late.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, maybe some point down the line we may review films that we're actually enthusiastic about again.
This one just felt like tradition, so we had to.
Yeah.
Now it's over. Never again.
Yeah. I might check out the short films at some point if I can be bothered, but I don't know.
Yeah, and we need to make a rule: only review it if it's good, or at least one of us thinks it's good. So one of us can just cream the other.
Well, the thing is, neither of us had seen it, so we didn't know.
Yeah, we just waited until we might make. We're like, oh, we'll watch it again when we review it. Then we waited, and then oh shit, what the hell, man?
Yeah. Anyway, in the comments, let us know what you thought of this film and whether or not you agree or disagree with us. Thanks, Ruben, for joining me once again. I'm sure we'll do another one at some point down the line. That's not another film review.
Easy.
And then tomorrow on the advent calendar will be day 24. Good luck and hope. Enjoy that. Anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, bye-bye.
Alright. And Ana Diarmas is really fucking hot. Bye. See you later.
Yeah, that's true. Bye.